Season of the Deep has added tremendous benefits for the Arc subclass. I think after last season, we're all a little tired of Void and Solar builds, so having an Arc buff to the subclass this season is fantastic. So in this video, I wanted to give a reprised version of my Fallen Sunstar Arc Warlock build. Let's just dive right into it. So this is the exotic Fallen Sunstar. It's an exotic helmet for the Warlock. Again, this is what it looks like normally. Actually got an ornament this season, which looks pretty cool. But the main thing we want to talk about is its perk, right? Ionic Conductor. Ionic traces you create move faster and grant you additional ability energy. Nearby allies also gain ability energy when you collect an Ionic trace. So essentially with this exotic, it gives a buff to Ionic traces for us and our teammates, which is going to be really crucial with this build. And obviously with the new season, we have a new seasonal artifact. So let's go over the perks that I'm using that just massively benefit this build. So first up, highly recommend picking up authorized mods Arc and Melee. Again, it's going to reduce those armor energy costs down to 1 so we can focus on other mods if we need to, which we are when we get to the armor mods portion of the video. Next up, highly recommend Thunderous Retort. Grants bonus arc super damage if cast while critically wounded or while amplified. Lasts until the end of the super activation. We're going to be using the Chaos Reach super in particular, so pretty much we're going to have bonus damage as long as we're in that Chaos Reach animation, which is just another bonus on top of just the build and the arc subclass this season, like I said. Next up, Amped Up. Gain damage resistance while amplified. Again, we're going to be amplified a lot of the time, and so this is just another bonus on top of that. Next two, I'd recommend Shock and Awe. Arc final blows while you're amplified summon a burst of lightning that damage and jolts targets. Again, this also applies to your weapons as well, not just your abilities. So this does give an extra bonus to all of the stuff that's already happening with the Arc subclass. Then lastly, highly recommend picking up Lightning Strikes twice. Again, if you did want to focus on Void build and you didn't want to have this one, it's not absolutely necessary since we are having very fast ability Regen already. But again, its perk after throwing an Arc Grenade, gain increased grenade recharge for a short time. Arc final blows extend the duration of this benefit, so it can be weapons or abilities. So again, another bonus here. Now let's go over what I'm using under the Stormcaller Arc subclass. So like I mentioned, the super we're going to be using is Chaos Reach. Again, it unleashes a long-range channel beam of concentrated arc energy. Sustained damage on a single target creates a jolting lightning strike at their position, and you can also press your super button to deactivate the super while you're still in it to save super energy. Next, for our abilities, I'm going with the Healing Rift for our class ability. Movement ability, you can use what you want. For the melee, I'm going with Ball Lightning. Again, it fires an arc projectile forward that releases a perpendicular lightning strike after a short time, so it basically just strikes down. And while you're amplified, it actually releases additional lightning strikes before detonating. But if you did want to go with Chain Lightning, that's fine. Pretty much jolts targets and spreads to other targets. While you're amplified, it actually creates an additional set of those arc chains. Again, you can use what you want. Ball Lightning has a longer cooldown, so keep that in mind. For the grenade, we're going with the Pulse Grenade. For our aspects here, we're going with Arc Soul. Cast your Rift to create an Arc Soul that fires at the target in front of you. Allies can pass through the Rift to get an Arc Soul. Your Rift charges faster when allies are near, and while you're amplified, your Arc Souls are supercharged and gain an increased fire rate. And then the other one we're using is Electrostatic Mine. Defeating targets with arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets creates an Ionic Trace. Collecting an Ionic Trace makes you amplified. Like I said, we're going to be creating a lot of Ionic Traces and taking advantage of the helmet that pretty much gives the buffed Ionic Traces on top of that. For our Fragments here, we're going with Spark Resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage, a +10 to strength, so again, survivability. Next, Spark Amplitude. Rapidly defeating targets while you're amplified creates an orb of power. Again, we're going to be amplified a lot of the time, and if we can help ourselves and our teammates get armor charges and super back faster, that is going to help us tremendously. Next up, Spark of Magnitude. Your lingering arc grenades have extended duration. Like I said, we have the Pulse Grenade, so the Pulse Grenade will last longer. So if we throw it on a target, it will do more damage essentially. Or if there's going to be an area where enemies spawn, we can throw it down. It takes care of them for a while. And then for the last fragment, we have a couple of different options here, but I like Spark of Shock. Your arc grenades jolt targets. It is a -10 to discipline. Now, in general, jolting can stun overload champions, but the main thing here is with Electrostatic Mine, if we can have a grenade that gives us Ionic Traces just from ability kills, on top of if we jolt a target and it spreads that jolt around to create an Ionic Trace, that can also give us another Ionic Trace to take advantage of. Now, for some other ones you could take advantage of, you can look into Spark of Feedback. Again, taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage. It does give you a +10 of resilience, so if you are lacking on that, that's okay. But again, I would recommend Spark of Shock. Next, let's go over the armor mods that I'm using. So first up here on the helmet, I have Hands On, gain bonus super energy on melee kills, and then also Dynamo, reduces super cooldown when using your class ability on your targets. And then lastly, I have Font of Wisdom. You gain bonus to intellect while you have any armor charge decay over time. So if we have one of these stat bonus mods, it gives us a plus 30. If you have 2, it's plus 50. If you have 3, it's plus 60. So with one of these blue mods, my intellect goes from 50 to 80 now. And if you don't understand how armor charges work, essentially if you collect an orb of power, it gives you 1 armor charge. With these blue mods, those actually last 10 seconds. So keep that in mind. If we have 3 base armor charges, that's 30 seconds of having this pretty much bonus to our intellect stat. Now on the gauntlets here, I'm rocking momentum transfer and impact deduction. Pretty much if I cause damage with my melee or my grenade, it gives cooldowns for both of those. So it's kind of like a cycle for those abilities. And then lastly, I have Font of Focus. You gain bonus to discipline while you have any armor charge. Your armor charge now decays over time. So again, this is going to give us a plus 30 to our discipline, to our grenade stat. I already have 71 discipline, so that'll bump it up to 101. So I'll pretty much have max discipline once I have an armor charge. Next up on the chest piece, you can rock any combination of, resistance and reserve mods depending on what you're doing, but I would at least recommend 1 reserve mod matching those weapons. Again, I want to take advantage of arc weapons for this build, and I'll explain why during the weapons section, but I have the arc reserves on, and then melee damage resistance. On our boots here, I have arc weapon surge. Your arc weapons gain a small bonus to damage while you have any armor charge. Your armor charge now decays over time. So on top of having the stat bonuses, we also are going to have bonus to weapon damage for our arc weapons once we gain an armor charge, which is fantastic. Now for the next mod, you can kind of switch these out, but I like Orbs of Restoration. So picking up an Orb of Power grants a small amount of energy to your ability with the least energy. You could also go Innervation, which does the same thing, but specifically for the grenade. Or Invigoration, same thing, but with the melee energy. Or if you're having trouble surviving, you could also do Recuperation, which replenishes health each time you pick up an Orb of Power. Now for the last mod here, this is a brand new one with Season in the Deep, but Elemental Charge. Collecting a Fire Sprite, Ionic Trace, Stasis Shard, Void Breach, or destroying a Strand Tangle has an escalating chance to give you an armor charge. With all the Ionic Traces we're going to be creating, we're definitely going to get armor charge just from collecting those. And they're going to track near us anyway, they're going to come to us faster, which it's going to be fantastic. Lastly, for the class item, we are rocking Outreach and Bomber, so whenever I use my class ability, I get a cooldown to my melee and my grenade. And then the new mod that came with the season, Powerful Attraction, automatically collects nearby orbs of power when you activate your class ability. So those will come to us on top of the Ionic Traces, so we can gain armor charges, get abilities back faster, and get our super back faster. Now for stats for you to focus on, highly recommend Resilience. We talk about this every video. Try to have tier 10 Resilience, 100 Resilience. It's going to give you a 30% damage reduction, so survivability is going to be good in any PvE activity. Now in regards to our abilities, so Discipline, Intellect, and Strength, I have 70 Discipline. Now like I said, the reason being is because with Font of Focus on the gauntlets, once I get an armor charge, that gives me a plus 30 to that stat. So once I have that armor charge, I pretty much have tier 10 Discipline, 100 Discipline, which is going to give me the fastest cooldown on my grenade as possible. Now, if you did want to, try to focus on someone with like 70 intellect as well, only have 50, so then Font of Wisdom can maximize your super, you totally could. Or same thing with Strength, again, that's tied to the melee. If you did want to have the melee mod on, which is Font of Vigor, same thing as Font of Focus, it just focuses on the melee. So I already have 70 on the melee, so then I would be able to have 100 on the melee, so I have the fastest melee cooldown as well. I just like the way I set it up because I could take advantage of the grenade, which gives us a lot of bonuses. Now in regards to weapon options, again, like I have on my build here, I have arc reserves and the arc weapon surge, so I can take advantage of arc weapons. Now there's obviously a lot of great arc weapons just in general, so having that bonus damage and more reserves is great, but one weapon that I'd recommend looking into in general is Delicate Tomb. Again, it's perk Trader's Vessel, fires a wide horizontal spread when shot from the hip. Final blows with this weapon have a chance to generate Ionic Traces, and powerful foes and opposing guardians always create Ionic Traces. Now its other perks, Fluted Barrel, Liquid Coils, and then Short Action Stock, but the main trait is Tempest Cascade. Collecting an Ionic Trace overcharges this weapon's next shot, jolting targets on hit. And again, with our aspect, any jolted kill will also spawn another Ionic Trace, so that's going to be great for us. And if you have the Catalyst, collecting an Ionic Trace partially reloads a magazine from reserves. If you got this far and you're still a little confused about how the build works, I'm going to explain it to the best of my ability, but essentially it's ability spam. It's just absolute abuse. So again, going over the helmet, the Ionic Traces that we create move faster and grant additional ability energy on top of our allies gaining ability energy. When we collect Ionic Traces over the team gets the benefit as well. But in regards to just the Arc subclass in general, right? Whenever we pop our Healing Rift, we're going to gain Arc Souls. And again, while we're amplified, the Arc Souls are going to fire faster and do even more damage. Now with Electrostatic Mine, Anytime we defeat targets with arc abilities, jolted or blinded will create an Ionic Trace, and every time we collect an Ionic Trace, we become amplified. So the Arc Soul actually does count as a arc ability kill, which will spawn an Ionic Trace. Absolutely disgusting. When we use our melee, it's going to spawn Ionic Traces. When we use our Pulse Grenade, again, it's going to spawn Ionic Traces on top of with Spark of Magnitude, making the Pulse Grenade last longer, and Spark of Shot jolting targets, giving us another opportunity to create Ionic Traces. Plus, obviously, Spark of Resistance, giving us more incoming damage when we're surrounded. And then, again, Spark of Amplitude, while we're amplified, which, as I just said, we're going to be collecting Ionic Traces to become amplified very, very often. Which means we're going to be amplified all the time. We're going to be creating orbs of power for us and our teammates. Now, in regards to the armor mods, the main thing here is gaining armor charges, right? Because we want to take advantage of the stat bonuses and the bonus arc weapon damage. Now, again, with elemental charge on the boots, every time we collect an Ionic Trace, there's an escalating chance to gain an armor charge, which it happens most of the time anyway, and we're going to be creating a bunch of Ionic Traces regardless, so we're going to have max 3 armor charges, you know, pretty quickly. And again, whenever we collect those Ionic Traces, we get even more ability regen from the exotics. And with everything else, again, once we have the armor charge, Font of Wisdom is going to kick in, giving us a plus 30 to our intellect stat. Font of Focus is going to kick in, giving us a plus 30 to our discipline. And Arc Weapon Surge is going to happen. So we get that bonus to our arc weapon damage. Now, with everything else, right, on the helmet, hands-on and dynamo, anytime we get a melee kill, anytime we cast that rift in your targets, we're gonna gain even more super energy, which we're gonna have those abilities very often anyway, especially with the rift, casting the Arc Soul, because we want to take advantage of that a lot. Again, on the gauntlets with momentum transfer and impact induction, just getting melee and grenade hits will cool down both of those, which is fantastic. On the boots, again, Orbs of Restoration, when we collect Orbs of Power from being, you know, amplified and rapidly getting kills, again, that is going to give us even more ability energy on top of powerful attraction on the class item. So when we cast that rift, all the orbs are going to come toward us anyway. So we're going to get that ability regen even faster. Plus, Bomber and Outreach on the class item, giving us a cooldown to both our melee and our grenade. Essentially, there really isn't any setup to this build. All you have to do is just get kills with abilities and arc weapons, and you can pretty much have unlimited ability spam. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is my updated Fallen Sunstar Arc Warlock build. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Again, I'm actually going to pin the build at the top of the comments, so if you want to copy everything that I'm using down to the subclass, armor mods, and even fashion if you'd like, that will be in that dim link. Let me know what you guys think. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Is there something that I could have switched out? Is there something that you really found beneficial with this build? Again, let me know. I'm testing stuff out in this game all the time. There's a million ways to build craft now. There's no end-all be-all in regards to build crafting these days, so let me know. In any event, if you guys like what you saw, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then turn on the bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on another build video here on the channel. If you didn't know, we actually stream here on YouTube 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Again, depending on my schedule, sometimes I'll change the day, maybe adjust the time a little bit. But if you would like to know when I'm going live, again, be sure to follow me on Twitter at ItsDaveTV. I always tweet out when I'm going live, plus other updates and news in general. And if you do want to participate in any raids, dungeons, PvP, whatever in regards to Destiny, again, join my Discord. That link will be in the description. On top of Destiny 2, we also talk about other games, PC tech, anime, and more. Lastly, if you didn't know, we hit YouTube Partner recently, which is just freaking awesome. It's given us access to a lot of cool benefits. One of those things being memberships. If you don't know what a membership is essentially like a Twitch subscription. Again, it's just another way to support me here on the channel so I can continue making this content for you guys. So again, if you would like more information, all you have to do is press the join button, next subscribe, and that'll give you a rundown with all the details you need. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.